So in this activity, we're going to show you how to model the mounting bracket from activity 7.1. Let's switch over to Autodesk Inventor. This is what the part should look like when you're finished. I'm going to take you through that process, and then we'll do a separate video for the actual dimension drawing. All right, so this is a standard US inches template part. So we're going to pick the standard IPT. I'm going to break this down. If you look at the part, I'm going to break this down sort of into the base and then the riser, the back part there. You can kind of visualize those as two prisms. So we're going to start with the base on the XY plane, and that's 2 inches by 1.5 inches. So I'll just put my dimensions right in there. We'll extrude that. It's a 1/2 inch thick, 0.5. And then I'd like to have that rotated. I could have picked a different plane, but we'll just set this view as our home view, and then that'll be the base that we'll put the holes in and fillets eventually. Then to make that riser or the back mounting part, we're going to put a rectangle in here. Now this is where I always tell students, make sure you fully constrain your sketches. So this is a 1/2 inch from that edge, and it's a 1/2 inch from that edge, and it's a 1/2 inch deep, and that ought to do it for that. We're going to extrude that. That goes up. Now this is where it's a little tricky to visualize how high that goes. The overall height of the part is, I think, 2.75 inches, but this is going to go up to the center. If we go back to the finished part, this is going to go up just to the center, right? That line, that edge there. So I need the height of this extrusion to be essentially from the top of the base up to the center of this cylinder part here. I think that's 1.75. So let's go back there. 1.75. Take a look at that. That looks about right. We can always go back and adjust that if it's wrong. And then we've got our two principal, basic formations of the part. To get that cylinder, I'm going to draw a circle, sketch a circle here. And this is pretty straightforward because I can get it to latch onto the midpoint of that line and then constrain it to the edge of that. And you notice that circle is already fully constrained. So here I'm going to extrude that using the bidirectional or symmetric. So it's going to go in both directions, 1/2 inch in both directions from the, I guess that's the overall. So 1 inch, but split evenly in both directions from that plane. So a 1/2 inch forward and a 1/2 inch backwards from that plane. So we're going to finish that, and there you can see it's starting to come together. All we need to do is add the 3 holes and then the fillets. So I typically do fillets last. So I tend not to use the hole feature unless you need some special features like threads, like counterbore, countersink. Instead, it's much more straightforward just to do a circle and extrude. So here we can latch right onto the origin. The diameter of that is 1/2 inch. We'll constrain that. And it's not constrained for some reason. Let's go back and check that. I wonder why. So this should be constrained to the center. It's not. That's very interesting. Well, normally that would be constrained right to the origin here. So what I need to do is fix that center point there because it's not constrained. Not sure why, but that happens sometimes. As long as it's in the right spot, you're good to go. We're going to extrude that. Now this one we want to just cut, so you choose the cut option, and instead of distance you always choose through all if it goes through the whole part, because if you choose a distance and then the thickness of the part changes, then your hole will be wrong. So there's that one. Then I got 2 last holes to make on this plane. It turns out if you look carefully, these holes are, the centers are coincident with that corner here. Okay, and they're also equal diameter, so I can use my equals constraint, and then all I need to do is dimension one of them. These are 0.5 inch diameter, and again, for some reason it's not constraining these, so I'm going to just use the fixed constraint, which is usually not a good idea because you never know if you put them in the wrong place and you use the fixed constraint, then your sketch and your modeling will be wrong. So we're going to use the cut option again to cut those out, and those are going to go through all. Click OK. So now all we need to do is finish our fillets. We've got 2 fillets here and on the opposite side, which are the same, and those are a 1/2 inch diameter, 0.5. So I can click both of those edges, fillet those edges with a 1/2 inch diameter, apply that. Then I'm going to do 2 more fillets here and here, and those are a 1/4 inch diameter, 0.25. Click apply, and that's pretty much it. So let's see how we did. Does it look like the one we started with? So there's the new one, and there's the one we started with that we're trying to build. Looks pretty good.